All right, good day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining in on Passages in Pranayama. Of course, my name is John, and this program, if you will, is a study of the Samkhya Karika, one of the six orthodox philosophical schools of Indian thought. Um, my goal is to, well, deliver, you know, somewhat. An abridged version of the Karika. It can be quite complex, there's no doubt about that. And hopefully, I'll be able to offer you tools to help you not just navigate the philosophical system itself, but of course, this is passages and pranayama where we do some breath work and meditation. And maybe we use some of the thoughts from the philosophical elements that we learn in the passage and apply it to our meditation technique. All right, and today is kind of interesting. We continue, I should say, the discussion of cause and effect, as well as the three gunas, the three qualities of manifest nature of prakriti. Last week we discussed prakriti and its source of, or I should say, the guna's source in the word prakriti, right? Um, and we have pravana, which is like it's I guess emblematic of sattva. It means like light and harmonious. Um, Kur, right, is to do, right? It's activity, much like rajas. And then the stiti part, we would say prakriti, right, is associated with stability, right? Now, anyway, as we move on, we do have here in Karika number 14, right, verse 14. Kapila continues with some of the qualities, if you will. All right, the qualities of the qualities. Adjustment here. All right. So the Karika itself states the qualities of non-discriminatedness. Not sure if that's a word, and the rest, um, and the rest of the characteristics of the manifest are proved to exist in the manifest by the possession of the three attributes and by the absence of the manifest's reverse. The unmanifest is also proved by the effect being of the same nature as its cause. This is kind of cool. So in Samkhya, in Visheshika philosophy as well, they're kind of like the more no, scientific approaches to um, our existence. So they're looking for proof of why maybe the transcendental state might exist, for example. They're looking for proof of, in this case, um, why the qualities of the gunas exist. What's their source, right? So what's the cause and effect of those gunas, right? And it should be noted that the gunas are, again, of these three qualities, right? Excuse me. Um, Balra describes these qualities of sattva as being light. I like to use the translation of harmonious. That is sattva. We have rajas, right? Or um, rajoguna, right? That would be dynamic. He explained it as, I think he used the word suffering, which does come up, right? I think it's good being like inert, heavy, lethargic. So we have those, but we see that in material nature, right, in prakriti, that if we were to look at something, or observe something or witness a thing, we could probably determine its quality. And I like to use the example, the different foods effects on the body. Right. So coffee, for example, is very rajasic, right? For a lot of us, and sugar can be as well. So it creates energy, right? What is the cause of coffee, right? Excuse me, what is the effects of coffee on us is, of course, this you know a heightened feeling of energy, right? And therefore we understand that the quality of rajas, right, is inherent in the coffee itself, right? So that's something that we kind of touched on last week that certainly deserves repeating. That the what we find in the effect will also be found in the cause. So, for example, the clay pot. Right now, the clay pot is right. We have a ball of clay, and we form it into a pot. So we know that clay itself is contained within the pot. Right? We have a cause and we have an effect. Now, this is where this Karika kind of changes direction a little bit, and that is that the usefulness has now changed. Although we know, much like we know that there are ingredients or chemicals within coffee that causes us to become rajasic or energized and dynamic and so forth. Um, Not that I know, I'm not a coffee drinker. Not that I have anything against coffee drinkers. It brings about a very rajasic state for me, and I get really jittery. Um, so back to the clay pot, right? The clay pot has clay within it, right? Again, there's kind of like there is cause and effect, right? There is the ingredient, if you will, of clay within the pot. But now things have changed. We can't pour a liquid into a lump of clay, it won't hold it. So its shape has changed, and we have given it its um, well, I would imagine, right? Right, the human mind's ability to manifest a thing like a clay pot has now given it a form that will make it more useful. The clay itself is quite useful because we have the opportunity to augment it into a shape that becomes even more useful. We touched on this concept last week. Okay. Uh, Now, I do want to get back to the very first line here. The qualities of non discriminatedness and the rest of the characteristics that manifest are proved to exist in the manifest by possession of the three attributes and the absence of its reverse. Okay, now, this is my interpretation of that. All right. And something I may have brought up in these talks, and that is that material nature is absolute neutral, right? And yeah, if you have listened to any of these, maybe you remember me talking about Dungeons and Dragons in the past. Right? We have what we call alignment, character alignment. Right? You can be good, and you can be lawful, and you can be neutral. Right? That's on one hand. On the other hand, excuse me, you could be good, neutral, or evil. And on the other hand, you could be lawful, neutral, or and chaotic. Applying these to a character or even a human is kind of weird, but I want you to think about it in terms of the gunas and nature itself. It's our sentient nature that allows us to move away from that neutral state. But if you observe nature, it's absolute neutral, meaning that I don't want to use the word it doesn't care what happens to you, but the cycles of life, the gears of life are going to constantly turn and spin around you. Um, it's it's not as if nature is attempting to give you an upper hand, right? For any of you mystics out there, right, that might be listening, you're probably not going to like this all that much because the universe doesn't care, right? According to Samkhya, right, the universe does not care. Whether you get a job or if you get the next pose or if your relationship works out, the universe doesn't give a, anything. Okay, uh, so, um, and this is a subject I would love to expand on. Maybe I will in a few moments. But sattva, rajas, tamas, these gunas are imposed on us by our reality, the world around us, manifest nature, prakriti. These are all the same thing. Um, just by happenstance, right? It's not like we win a lottery and everything is sattvic and harmonious. It's not the way it works, right? So again, the universe doesn't really care, about you. I know, again, in the yoga community, right? In those that might be meditating and stuff. Well, this is like actually one of the coolest things about it because do we have the power to manifest sattvic states of mind? Absolutely. Will they be bestowed upon us by some outside force? Absolutely not. Right, and this shows up in basically every philosophical system, and especially like in the Far East, right? In Taoism and Buddhism, and uh, in like these various schools of philosophical thought. Um, so, um, what ends up happening is yeah, as I mentioned, right? The universe really doesn't care all that much, but we have the power to like direct our lives in a way that can become more sattvic. We can even look at things, right? This is the wonderful thing about it. The power to take something that is rajasic or tamasic, right? That could potentially cause suffering, um, and turn it around, right? And look at something in a way. Well, it's like making a mistake, right? Ultimately, making a mistake isn't really a good thing, but it also provides us an opportunity to learn from that mistake. And I think that's probably one of the best examples I could potentially use. Right? So does the universe care about us? No, it doesn't. Right? There's no cosmic force out there that is literally on our side and rooting for us. There just isn't. Right? You know, I don't want to be so harsh, but according to Samkhya, there's not, right? But we do have the power to affect, right? Cause and effect. We have the power to affect how we are going to one change our character, change our behavior, and view the world through a lens that could potentially be sattvic. Right? And how do we do that? Right. So one way that we do that, we attempt to change our own behavior for sure, but we also might use certain techniques, right? Prayer is an excellent example, and how you're using prayer is going to determine its outcome. So I grew up Catholic, and that religion, right? There's a lot of yeah, celebrate Catholicism for sure. It's a wonderful religion and helps many people. um, uh, but as with all things that humans touch, right, we end up kind of changing it, augmenting it in a way that is going to benefit only, let's say, the most powerful within that community, which is a very difficult thing. All religions are corrupted in some sense. And which is why the practice of spirituality can be so effective for so many, right? And we see the trends in America where religion, religiosity, if you will, is diminishing. But there seems to be a bump in spirituality. Um, but to be super careful here too, because when we practice a faith tradition of any type, um, we ourselves are subjective, right? And in this passage specifically, we have nature being completely objective, and that gets lost with the human mind, right? We end up changing it and forming it into something that we want, right? That is, well, it's why depictions of God are oftentimes in some human form. For those of us in the West, the image of Jesus Christ is white. Um, there's a very good chance he was not. It's more likely that he was not. But again, because whether it's white supremacy, or just we want to see an image of ourselves, kind of reflected back on us from high up, if you will. In any case, right, we're imposing our own thoughts or something similar. We want to see something similar um, in the the iconography of religions. But yeah, again, we're imposing that on something else, and it's unfortunate, of course, because then we have people following it, and it becomes part of a collective consciousness, which might actually not be factual. Anyway, I just sorry, I just went off on religions, and actually that wasn't. I didn't go off as much as I'd like to. Sit up tall. All right. So my point is, when we think about um, changing our behaviors, think about a religion or being spiritual. What are the characteristics? Right. What are the things that we're actually looking for? If you're a yoga practitioner, we look to the yamas and niyamas, right? In Taoism, these virtues come up as well, but things like patience and kindness and things of that sort. So, what I want you to do today, right, I'm going to give you just say 5 examples, right? Respect. I always like one, like respect, right? So, use respect. Kindness is always a good one. There's no doubt about that. We have contentment, super powerful. Um, Gratitude, right? Also very, very important, super powerful. Um, Gratitude, right? Also very, very important. And I said patience, right? Patience. I think that's a good one. I don't know if I can ring those off again, but we had what was the first one? Respect, respect, kindness, contentment. Respect, kindness, contentment. Um, Respect, kindness, contentment. Um, Patience. And what was the fourth? I can't remember. But anyway, there are other things. Again, we look to the yamas and niyamas. Maybe non envy. It's always a good one. All right. So pick one of those. Right. Pick one of those, and every time you inhale, and every time you exhale, just repeat the word. You want the power of the word, right? You want to imbue the word with power so that it has an effect on your mental state. So if you're using the word kindness, right, you might even say to yourself, you know, I am kind. I act with kindness. I am patient. I act with patience, right? So you breathe in, I am patient, right? Or I am respectful. You breathe out. I act with respect, right? I act with patience. So just pick one, right? Don't muddle them all up, okay? So find one that suits you, or maybe one that you really need to work on, all right? I'm going to choose respect. I love nothing quite like respect. Sit up tall, ears and shoulders and hips all aligned. Each inhale, we're saying, I am respectful. And with each exhale, I act with respect. All right, where I am kindness, I act with kindness. I am content, I act with contentment. so on and so forth. All right. Again, your shoulders, hips aligned. Again, just going to be 10 deep breaths. All right. So just first inhale and exhale. Again, inhale and exhale. Inhaling, I am respectful. And exhaling, I act with respect. Inhale. Exhale. Right, be sure you say it to yourself or say it out loud if no one's around. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. I am respectful. Exhale. I act with respect. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. I am respectful. Exhale. I act with respect. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Good. Now, keep the word in mind. Loosen the rhythm of your breath. Keep breathing, of course. And focus your mind on the meaning of the word that you used. All right. So whether it's respect or kindness, contentment, patience, whatever word you may have used, right? There is power in that word, but we give it its power. Right? We're the ones who decides to act with respect or act without respect, and therefore, right, the word can have a much deeper meaning. Remember, with all of these attitudes or virtues, they are a practice. It's something that you need to practice over and over again. Right? People in the world are generally, actually, quite abundantly uh, good, right? Good natured. We ourselves are probably good natured ourselves, and but it doesn't mean that we can't practice these virtues. Doesn't mean that right, if you're born a naturally good person, you can't do bad things, you don't do mean things, right? Those things are going to happen. So we must kind of tune our mind, right? We got to tune up our minds every now and again, and we actively practice these virtues as well. Oh, gratitude, of course. Gratitude was number 4. And there's a perfect example, right? Continue with your word. Perfect example of how we go out and we practice these things. Like, be appreciative and let someone know how appreciative you are of the work that they do or the impact they've had on your life, right? Let it be known. Anyway, let's move to an exhale. Deep inhale through your nose, draw your shoulders up. Well, I want to thank you so much. Here I am at 25 minutes. I try to make these short, but I guess it's good that I have a lot to say about these different virtues or these different passages. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, your efforts. Be good and be good to others. All right. Peace.